YouTube? How's it going? You should have just came from the channel intro. If you haven't watched that, you can. It's like 5 minutes. I basically was just talking about how I caught a serious case of climbing bug, which a lot of you watching could relate to. It's not a real thing. It's just kind of like I freaking love climbing because it's like the best thing ever. And so this video is gonna be about that. It's gonna be about why climbing is like just the most awesome thing that we've ever done. I mean, we've probably climbed rocks like forever. We definitely have, but like, anyways, but yeah, we're gonna get into that. Basically, why it's so awesome, and why me and probably a lot of other people have kind of fallen in love with climbing. And so yeah, we'll just dive into it. The first thing that I would say is that it's a physical exercise, right? But not only is it a physical exercise, it's also a mental exercise. This can be subjective. There's a lot of people who don't think a lot when they climb. I would argue that they don't improve very fast if you don't try to improve both mentally and physically. What I mean mentally is that, well, one, like mental as far as like trying really hard on the wall and like not giving up, that sort of thing. But a big part of climbing efficiently, because you only have so much energy to climb with, is learning how to read routes. And so what that means for anybody who's like a newer climber is when you go to a problem in your gym or at your boulder or whatever, and you look at the wall, there's like all the rocks and stuff, and you're like, how the heck do I get up to the top, right? Basically being able to look at the problem on the wall and read or learn how to get to the top without even having to touch the climb is the skill of route reading. And so as you get better at it, right, you're going to be able to approach problems and like know how to do them without having even touched the wall yet, which is like super crazy, right? Like as someone who's a beginner, you might be like, what the heck, like that's like not possible. But yeah, like you've probably seen like the videos of like the sweaty like climbers like laying on their back like with their eyes closed, going like visioning like their climbing stuff, right? That's a little different, but it's like kind of the same thing as like route reading, as far as like you need to understand. And so yeah, I think that's super cool because it's both a physical thing, obviously. You're gonna get super strong, and it's that mental aspect to it too. It's like problem solving, right? And so I don't know, I went to school for game design and CS, and so rock climbing kind of ticked that like problem solving box for me in my brain, which was nice to kind of scratch that itch. Outside of the physical and mental exercise, it's also like a very social, optionally social sport. But it's interesting, right? So most sports are like, I would say they're competitive, right? Where it's like either team against a team or a person against a person. And rock climbing, besides like, unless your goal is to go to the Olympics, which I get married, like it may very well likely be that. Besides like the Olympics and like competitions, the rest of the sport is not based around competition with another person. Sure, people have rivals here and there, blah, 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 like they do that themselves. But when I go to the gym with you or with a group of people, right, and we go to try to climb a boulder, we're all supporting each other to hopefully climb that boulder, right? Like there's no first, second, third place, right? Of like who climbed, like the boulder doesn't go away after like you've sent it. Like there's no, by nature it's not a competitive sport. Now, and I'm not like fighting competition in climbing. I do think like you can use it in a really healthy way, to improve like with anything else in life. But yeah, what that means though is because it's not by nature super competitive, it's also super social. And so, I mean, you can choose to kind of isolate yourself. Um, but what I found is because I wanted to improve so quickly when I started climbing, is I would just ask people questions at my gym, for like questions to help me, with like the problems, like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I would find that they would just help you and answer your question. Who would have thought? But yeah, and if you do that enough, you're gonna make friends, right? You're gonna get to know the people in your gym. People are locals; they come all the time, right? And so, yeah, it turns into a super social thing if you choose to get out of your box a little bit. Like I'm not okay. I've changed a little bit over the years. I used to not be the most like extroverted person. Like I was very introverted, kind of in my shell, right? Especially like it can be pretty intimidating, right? And I see this all the time with new climbers at my gym. It can be intimidating to talk to strangers at the gym when you're first starting out. Um, and the way I think about it, right? If I don't want to stay like that, is don't even like your goal is not to socialize with people, right? And make friends. Your goal is just to ask them questions about like how to improve. That's how I thought about it, right? Some people might have the complete opposite psychology on that, but for me, I found it less intimidating for myself to be like it makes sense for me to ask this person who's obviously better than me because I just started for help instead of asking like trying to be their friend, um, for like kind of no reason, right? And I also found that like if you're asking people questions, like you're gonna find the people who you vibe with more, and you're gonna find who you like don't really vibe with. And so by just asking for help, it's kind of like a loose vibe check, with people. But yeah, that was a little rant. That's one of like the best parts about climbing. I feel like is like you can really form a really like healthy group of friends because you're literally like it's the same as like a gym group, right? But like for climbing, like, you guys are always like physically, mentally, hopefully like improving as people, and you can push each other to be better, um, which is dope. Um, and so yeah, those are the first two. So it was mental and physical exercise. It's very social. Um, Besides that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's like a huge gravitational pull as far as like why I do it, um, that you like would relate to. Like, I mean, I love everything about it. I love the culture around it. I love that it's international. Um, People like I love that there's different styles from different parts of the world, and you can go to like say Japan for example, right? And you can see that all their gyms are set in a certain way. Whereas if you were to go to America or to some parts of Europe, like it's gonna be different. The climbers are trained differently from when they're young, or in general, the gyms are set differently, and so you learn in a different way. Um, and because with climbing, right, it's so diverse, right? I guess I'll make this my third point. Climbing is so there's a lot of variation in style and technique. Not so much technique, but like style, I would say, because the the sport allows you to do it. And what I mean by that is with climbing, there's a bunch of moves in one problem, and all the moves in that problem, right? Like no, I'm like in all problems ever that existed, there's probably no moves that were ever exactly the same, right? And I mean like atom to atom, like texture, like all this stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of problems and like moves that are like very extremely similar if you like bring it to the of that, you know what I mean? But what that means is because every single move is different and the people are different everywhere, right? Every person is different. You find that a lot of your style is based around your environment and the people that taught you how to climb, right? And so for like the people who climb a lot know that climbers in certain parts of the world tend to climb a certain way, whereas other parts of the world they tend to climb a different way, right? And that's because they learn how to, I don't know, they learn how to, they basically grow different strengths and have different weaknesses, right? And so you can get through a problem different ways, right? You can get it through raw strength and raw power and control, or you can get through it through being more flowy, more dynamic, more explosive, right? Using more momentum, not so much raw controlled strength, and everything in between. And so that's super cool to see, because, and as like a new climber, if you're watching this, like that's something you should be super excited about, is like you get to basically unlock how, like what type of climber you want to be. And now that like this exists, the internet exists and YouTube and all this stuff, right? And you can see that Japan tends to be a more dynamic climbing centered country, right? Or its style as far as like the climbers, whereas like America or some of the more like Western countries tend to be more traditional, crimpy, blah blah blah, whatever. That's just my perspective on it. Now that you can see that, 2026, you can basically choose your style. Like, of course, like, well, I'm in America, right? I'm in California. You see the influence. You see the influence in the gyms here, right? There's a lot of gyms here that are different styles than what you would have seen a while back. Or not even so long ago, maybe like 10, 20 years ago, it would have been completely different. Someone's gonna have to fact check me on that. But yeah, completely different. But now, because you have the internet, you can choose kind of the style you want to have, because you have that agency to influence yourself how you want to be. But yeah, that's what I would say. I would say it is the mental and physical growth that you'll experience, the social aspect, which is extreme. This is the most fulfilling one. Having some sort of social aspect to something you love will like make it many times better. And then the third one is it's kind of a buzzword, I'll just say diversity in climbing right now, and like the connectedness that it has because of the internet, and because of like ease of travel and that sort of things nowadays, is super cool to see, all of those styles mixing. And so yeah, if you're a new climber, you've got a lot to be excited about. Climbing is on the rise. It's dope as heck. And so those are just a few of my reasons as to why I think climbing is awesome. A few other reasons, like, share them. It's not even necessarily for me, but like maybe someone else will see it and be like, I resonate with that hella. So that would be dope. But yeah, that's it for this video. I'm gonna make another video right now on a different topic, so maybe that's already uploaded, I don't know, but I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.